with 4 people and had quorum right at 3:30. That's amazing.
There you go. You're ready to start.
Awesome, thanks. So we got introductions in a second, but let's just jump right into getting things started with approval of the agenda. Be it resolved that the Clearview Youth Center Advisory Committee hereby approves the agenda dated December 1st, 2021 as presented. And I think Kayla sent the agenda out last week.
Yep.
Do I have a mover?
I can approve this one, yeah.
Okay, so I think I got Caroline and Krista as their seconder. All in favor? Excellent. All right, that passes. Number 2, disclosure of pecuniary interest and the nature thereof. If there is anything that anyone feels they're in conflict of interest throughout the course of the meeting, they can make that known to us, and they can excuse themselves from that part of the meeting. Number 3, approval of previous minutes dated October 6th, 2021. And the motion reads, be it resolved that the Clearview Youth Center Advisory Committee hereby approves the minutes dated October 6th, 2021 as presented. We need a mover and a seconder.
Can't do
We
it.
got moved by Robert and seconded by Caroline. All in favor? All right, that passes. Thanks, everybody. Number 4 is business arising from the minutes. Does anyone have any business from those minutes? I think it's already an agenda item for us from those minutes in terms of our terms of reference to review. But I think the big piece, we're all anxious to be introduced to our new coordinator for the Youth Center, Shannon McCormack, who's here for the first time, which is awesome. Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you. Just wanted to say I'm very happy to be here and continuing the amazing work that Courtney started from the very beginning. So
excellent.
Thanks.
Well, great to have you. Well, we can jump, I think, right into your coordinator report because I'm sure people will have some questions to throw at you as well. So
perfect.
So
Bring
it's all
on.
yours.
Okay, great. So I just want to start off with the activity kits. So the Youth Center will continue to implement the youth activity kits monthly. We've continued even while the center is open full time to account for those youth who are not comfortable returning and those youth that are unvaccinated. We've had several parents and youth provide us with positive feedback regarding these kits through email and social media messages. I've only been here for a month, but I've already noticed and received positive messages from parents indicating that their youth are loving these activity kits and hoping that we keep them going. So for the month of November, all 75 kits provided were registered for and delivered. Regarding the month of December, we've already started advertising the 75 kits 2 weeks ago. And within the last 2 weeks, they are already 99% sold out. So we will be delivering these kits within the next week for all the youth that registered for them. Regarding programming, so this month we have implemented a new program called Wellness Wednesdays. This program involves educating youth on life skill topics related to their overall physical, mental, educational, and professional development. The month of December focuses on getting job ready, in which we'll be running workshops on creating resumes and cover letters, how to start the job search, how to ace an interview, and so forth. We hope to bring in professional guests for certain topic areas in which professional field knowledge is important to provide. And we already have some booked in to join us for this program, which is great. And some of the youth have indicated that they are looking for summer jobs or want to get prepared for summer jobs. So this is why we're implementing this program for December. Moving on to kind of the COVID kind of side of things. So recently we have been notified within the last month that we are no longer restricted to a capacity limit of 10 youth within the youth center at a time.
Oh, good news.
And no longer must socially distance within the center, which has been great. Because with these limits no longer in effect, we can kind of bring in programming that supports larger numbers. So with this in mind, we are implementing a Clearview Youth Center pool table tournament December 10th, with hopes to draw in a larger crowd and hold future competitions, maybe even against fellow youth centers, and kind of draw in the older crowd of youth, so those in their later teenage years. We already have a significant number of youth interested and signed up for this. The pool table is one of the most used items within the youth center, so we kind of wanted to mix that within a big programming event. And then related to this, the youth center has other events and out trips planned for December, specifically a Christmas skate at the Stainer Arena, We're going to be dressed up in Christmas sweaters and all the gear, have a prize for those decked out in their best Christmas outfits. We're going to go on a snowshoeing outing. It was nice that Courtney was able to get the youth center 10 pairs of snowshoes. So we're able to provide that to youth.
Oh, wow,
And
great.
yeah, it's amazing. So we're able to get the snowshoes, get the youth, and allow them to go snowshoeing without having to worry about getting their own pair. We're also taking a trip to the Georgian Mall in the middle of December to go Christmas shopping, so you can get Christmas presents for their family members, their friends, or even themselves. And we're also going to have a youth center Christmas party at the end of December while the youth are off school, just something we can all do together. And regarding numbers for the youth center, so on a nightly basis, the number of youth attending the youth center has been increasing. Within the month that I've been there, I've noticed the numbers going from 3 to 4 youth per night up to an average of 9 to 10 youth per night. Within the last 2 weeks, we've had around 3 to 4 nights in which there has been 14 youth, which is significant that I've seen because post-COVID, it's been great seeing an increase in youth attending programs. So it's shown that we're going in an upward direction post-lockdown and so forth. Some quick statistics I have regarding this are within the past 30 days, we've had 150 youth come into the youth center. And if we take out the reoccurring youth from that number, we have approximately 28 youth who visit the youth center on a repeat basis within the last month, which is great. It shows that the youth who are coming are enjoying their time here, and that's why they repeatedly come every night or most of the nights that we're open. And then finally, as the months fly by, January's program calendar is already in the works, which I'll just touch on quickly. As it is the month of Bell Let's Talk month during January, the youth center plans on kind of directing some of our programming towards the subject of just health and well-being. So this will be done with the help of outside resources. So we've already been in contact with some professionals in the area and have out trips or in trips booked with them. So we are planning on attending a couple martial arts class with a martial arts company in the area. And we do have an individual coming in to provide some yoga programming and physical activity programming that we're able to do safely in the youth center with the youth, especially in the winter times. It's harder to get outside. So we just want to kind of get them moving inside and doing something new and fun programming wise. So with all that being said, I'd like to open the floor to any questions anyone may have about our programming, the activity kits, or just the youth center in general.
Shannon, I have a question.
Yes.
From last time we met in October, I know there was a program where you folks were going to get a group of students down to Canada's Wonderland. I just wanted to know whether how did that end up going? Did that able to go through?
Yeah, so I wasn't here for that. However, they went to Halloween Haunt in October, end of October, and I know it was a huge success. They went with the Wasaga Beach Youth Center, went on a school bus down there, went for the whole night. I think there was quite a few youth from our youth center who went, around maybe 10 or more. And I know it was, again, very successful. They had a lot of a great time. And I think it would be something to implement again next October, or just more out trips relating to that now that it's kind of more possible to do so. And then just again, related to that, they went to the YMCA a couple nights ago with the Wasaga Beach Youth Center. And we had a packed program. We were able to take up to 10 youth, and we had those 10 youth easily. So just looking into doing more things like that, more out trips to places that youth enjoy going to.
Awesome.
Sorry, I'm just trying to go back with a mental health doctor that my 17-year-old daughter was in contact with last year. And there was, I remember there was a program, Dr. Jody Belevins, she's local in Clearview. And she is a GP psychologist. And she was actually talking to me in regards to, there was an artist who is a child psychologist. And I think works with Pine River.
Okay.
And she did masks And it was this art form where she would come in and, take 5 or 10 youths and then would do masks and then make the children like make their masks, describing their emotions, etc. And then like built on mental health as on an individual basis. And I'm trying to go through my emails right now, which is dated back a couple of years ago, but I'm getting there. And I'm just trying to see if I can find the one to get the information, because I feel like if she might, contacting this woman, no harm, no foul. And, she might be able to donate some time, or whether there's some funding for her and then just getting the supplies donated or whatever. I just, when you talk for mental health, I'm a mother of a 17-year-old who has mental health issues. And so I feel like, focusing on that is fantastic all the time. So if I can find this information, Shannon, I'm certainly going to try to get it to you. I promise, because from what I understand, she was amazing at what she did. And she is a local Creemore artist and does shows, etc., but also certified and works with youth and teens. So
do you mean Airly?
I'm not, when I'm just trying to go through the stuff, I just remember at the single mom. So I remember at the time, Jody was her doctor for quite a while, and her administrator is Amanda Greenfield, one of my very, very, very best friends. And I just remember saying, Jody, like, I don't have $240 an hour. So like, that's fantastic. And I wish I did, but a person like that, I just remember Jody saying to me how qualified she was and how amazing she was. And it could be. So I'm not quite sure, Caroline, I apologize, but I'm going to go through my emails when I get back from work, because this is a split shift, and then see if I can find the information. And if not, I'll just text Jody myself and I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Thank you, Krista. That would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
especially,
no problem.
We're not mental health professionals here, so it would be great to have the outside resources come in and educate the youth on topics that they are knowledgeable in and professional in. So that would be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I feel like what the youth are not getting, as a wonderful community that we are, and great parents and everything else, is they're not getting the redirecting, like redirect yourself, or just redirect yourself. How do I not stay on this path of destruction or whatever? How can I redirect myself? And so I feel like that's a major thing that I've been going with my daughter with, and something that I've listened, lots of counselors, lots of therapists, lots of psychologists, lots of ER doctors, and lots of everything. And no one has ever given us those kind of tools. And I think these are tools that the kids are missing. So just from an experienced mom and volunteering in my community and being involved with youth for, 17 years. And it's a tool that we just, even as parents, sometimes we don't know how to teach our kids. So yeah, I feel like this was what she was kind of based on. And I feel like this was the whole part of the emotional mask building. And then how do I redirect myself out of that emotion or out of that feeling or out of that situation easily to cope with the scenario and the situation around you. So that to me was like, wow, finally, because kids don't listen to their parents. I mean, I could teach my daughter all day long how to redirect herself because I'm educated and knowledgeable, but at the end of the day, and I'm an adult, but at the end of the day, kids don't listen to their parents. So yeah, that would be a fantastic idea. That's what I came up with anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry to there was my business.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, I think that students these days, and especially with everything going on, we need to have that multi-layered approach. It needs to be school and home and community where these resources are there. So yeah, and work.
Yeah,
exactly.
and work, right?
All
Yeah,
those
and
fronts.
how to cope.
That's great.
Thanks, guys. I'm glad that was a good positive thing. Thank you.
Shannon, you've been able to connect with our school in terms of getting announcements and so on. I think has that been successful? I think I kind of just passed on a couple email addresses, but I don't know if you've. Okay.
I've been in contact with Stacy.
Perfect. Yeah, she's the one.
We'll be heading there this Friday to give out some more announcements, and she'll be posting them online as well, which is great.
That's excellent. Great. I'm glad to hear that. Any other questions for Shannon about some of the things going on at the youth center up and coming?
I have a quick question, but I'm not sure if this is the time to ask it. Just before Courtney had gone, she'd spoken about the youth taking more of a hand in the governance, and that she would sort of gauge interest. And I was just wondering how that went over. if it went over?
Yeah, so I was talking with Ben about this briefly. Courtney kind of gave me a brief rundown about this youth council before she left. I will have to get a little more information, but I think it's something great to do, have the youth have a voice in that aspect. So I hope to continue this on for Courtney with just a little more information provided.
Great. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
And that's a perfect segue into our next item, and that's our new business in reviewing the terms of reference review that that Courtney began, and I assume that was that she got some input from you, Kayla, as well, in terms of the structuring of that, and that were attached to the agenda that was sent out earlier. So hopefully everyone has had a chance to take a look at those new updated terms of reference. Now, Kayla, I have a question for you. Is our task today to review, or is there action required regarding these terms of reference?
Yeah, so my understanding from Courtney was that she had presented the terms of reference at the last meeting, so back in October. Hopefully everybody had time to review it and kind of look over to see what they might suggest or implement, change, take away, any of those sort of suggestions. So now would be a really good time to have a discussion on where you'd like to see the terms of reference go, or if that's exactly what you like. And if we can move forward in accepting those, whether you change them or not, then we can move forward to council with something as they start to plan for this becoming a youth-led committee.
Okay. Did everyone get a copy of the terms of reference?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we could begin with Councillor Walker and Deputy Mayor Burton, because as two of the gentlemen who were involved from the very beginning in terms of establishing the original terms of reference, very, with the original vision of this youth center, and so to look and get the perspective from you gentlemen in terms of the original idea, goals that you wanted to achieve, mission accomplished, now moving forward, do these new terms of reference, how do you feel about that, the direction being put forward?
Well, if I may go first, Mr. Chair, I'll be honest, I have not had a chance to review the new terms of reference. I was aware that they were coming up. And as you notice, I've missed a lot of meetings because I'm just so tied up in so many other meetings. Mm-hmm. Typically, NEC meetings fall at the same time, and they're all day long. I'm a provincial commissioner in the Niagara Escarpment Commission, which also takes up like that. So anyways, I'm thrilled to see how well the youth center is doing, and just totally amazed, and just, I know it's in good hands, so I haven't had to worry about it. I mean, it was a little bit difficult to sort of let go, but had to do that, and I'm just thrilled to see how it's going. But as far as going from what our original, inoculation was to now, is I think, gearing up towards more governance by the youth is a great idea, if you can get them motivated to do it, But I think you need a little more of the older age teens involved to do that, because I think that's a little hard to get 12 and 13-year-olds, geared in their own governance. Although they have great ideas, they all have great ideas. I think, as we're moving towards their own governance, we need to get more of the older teens involved. And I'm sure Shannon could tell us, and from what I'm hearing, we're starting to get more of the older teens involved. And I'd also like to mention that Ben was part of this from the very beginning, and so was Mary. It's so great to see Mary down there. I haven't seen Mary in ages, so it's so great. Actually,
you're right. I remember to mention that Mary has been on, even though she wasn't part of the committee at first, she's been working with you forever on this. So
yes,
sorry, Mary.
Yes,
I didn't mean to leave you out of that.
And she was crucial in getting us funding in the early days with the United Way, and of
the early days and the middle days.
My partner in crime, Robert, there. My partner in crime, Robert, there. We I was sort of sitting here listening to everybody talking, and I was sort of reminiscing about all the crap we went through in those early days trying to get this started, right? And trying to get council on board and trying to get, it's like, and now I see it, it's just, yeah, I'm so thrilled every time I hear what's going on. And although I haven't been participating, I pay attention to what's going on. And I have dropped in from time to time and talked to Courtney, and dropped in and seen the multiple bags of kits to go out, during the pandemic, which I thought was just amazing. So, but as far as I won't take up too much more time. As far as the governance goes, I think it's great if we can get the kids more involved in the governance of the, involved. I think there still needs to be some leadership at the top as they do that. But no, I think it's great. Okay, Robert, you can speak up. I'll be quiet now.
Okay, Barry. No, I think right from the start, our whole thought, at least my whole thought process was, once we got it established, to try and gradually hand over to the youth. My comment has been earlier that if the youth have a controlling interest in decision making and coming forward with solutions, they're more apt to be very successful in the operation of the facility, because they've created some of their own rules and regulations. They're creating their own programs. They are involved right from the start. So that was the whole idea when we started this, Barry and I, you're right. We went through a lot at the start with council, but it has certainly been one of the great success stories of this term, of the last term and a half of council, has been this youth committee and this youth center and this committee to push it the way we have got it now. So I'm very supportive of having the youth move forward. As Barry said, we've got, there's a total of 5, I believe, 3 youth in the ages of 14 to 18, an adult rep, and then a council member. So I think that, and it's just a recommendation committee only, so they can make recommendations with the guidance of youth director to council, and then council will move forward with those from there. So I'm looking forward to letting the youth move into that next step up in their role of operations of youth center.
Is there any thought on having more? And that was my only thought when I saw, the maximum of 3 youth and then 2 other representatives. I just, maybe the issue around having more bodies around that table or more youth could be that, it makes a quorum issue when suddenly you have, 20 people on the council and then you need to have 10, right? But so that's a kind of a nice number looking at 5 in terms of having people there. I don't know, in my imagination of what that looked like, it was a bigger group of students who were part of that committee.
Well, the one thing that I would say, if I may jump in there, Mr. Chair, and it's great to see you still doing chair, Ben. You really stepped up to the plate too. I think it's important. We have to remember we're still a committee of council, right? And we will always be a committee of council, whether it's run by the youth or run by the, So I think you still need to have 2 representatives from council on the committee, and that's something that the council has expects, and especially when I'm a prime example when I have not been available, unfortunately, for the last little while because my other commitments to Clearview. Robert has been able to be there, but I still think we have to keep that in mind that we are still a committee of council. We're funded by council now. Most of our funding comes from council now, not the other organizations like that Mary was so wonderful in getting us funding for. And I see her hand up. So, but yeah, 5's a little on the slight side, in my opinion. 7 would probably be a more realistic number. But again, you got to get enough of the senior youth there to do it. Like if you could get, so if you put 2, you got 2 members of council who are part of the committee. So there's 2 already. You've got the coordinator who's going to be part of it. So there's 3. So that leaves room for 4 youths. And maybe like 2 of the senior youths and 2 of the maybe the younger youths. Just my thought.
Mary.
Thank you. I just, I wanted to agree that I think probably it would be a good idea to have at least 2 more youth. Certainly, yeah, whatever you want to do with council and adults, that's great. But just thinking, I know how difficult, I know that they aren't meeting frequently or they wouldn't be meeting frequently, but my experience, as I'm sure everybody else here who's had to deal with volunteers committees, sometimes getting adult volunteers out to meetings regularly is difficult. And if you have such a small number on the committee, getting quorum might be challenging. That's just a thought. And the other thing I would just suggest, assuming that this goes forward, which I really hope it does, I'm in full support of it for all the reasons that have already been talked about, that there be a very specific interview process for the youth so that, you know, that you're getting kind of the skill set you want. And it's not just a matter of enthusiasm. Oh, we get to like make sure that they're very clear on what that, like, I mean, terms of references, they're quite long and they're very detailed. They're great, but you want to make sure the youth know what they're signing up for. And then I would have an interview process that goes in alignment with that and just say, you know, this is the expectations that are going to be set out, because often a lot of people get very enthusiastic about joining a committee, and then when the rubber hits the road and the work's got to be done, and I'm talking about adults, I'm not referencing that this is a kid thing, this is just volunteers get excited, and sometimes when they get involved it just kind of peters out and then it ends up being left to the same people over and over again, and you don't want that to happen. That's all.
I think that's a really important point. And I have a question for Kayla. When for a committee like this, is the selection process something that's already established by Clearview Township, or is it something that would be included in the terms of reference?
I think for this one, it's going to be pretty specific to youth, and I think it's going to be something that'll need to be created. Likely, the clerk would have a better understanding of that. While I'm on the topic of that, though, 5 from a clerk's perspective is a great number. It's small enough that you can still have fulsome discussion and get quorum. You only need 3 people to show up for quorum. When we start going higher than that, we find that it becomes a little bit more difficult to get everybody to show up and make that quorum. And then 3, you still have, like I said, that fulsome discussion. I completely understand where you guys are coming from, though. As a committee, you want more brains, more eyes, you know, more can absolutely be better, more ideas. But just from an administrative standpoint, 5 is kind of our lucky magic number.
Deputy Mayor Burton.
Yeah, you can call me Bear. That's okay. I actually have a question for our clerk there, and so the way this committee exists now is everybody on this committee has to be approved by council. Okay, so you're appointed by council. You apply for the position. You're appointed by council. Would we have to follow that same process for the governance of them? So anybody who gets any of the youth members would have to be approved by council as well. So they would have to be aware of that. They sign up, they apply, you know, we can make our recommendations, you know, which is often what happens. And usually 9 times out of 10, council is going to follow our recommendations because Bob has such a good job at convincing them. Councillor Walker, that's the right thing to do. But, you know, so that's the reality, though. They still have to be approved by council. So I just wanted to clarify that with Kayla.
Absolutely. So the appointment process isn't going to change. I think what Mary is referring to, you'll see in a lot of larger city centers like Toronto, for instance, where they can really put out, this is what we're looking for in a board and committee member. And that goes across all boards. You know, some people might want a lawyer or something of that nature, a doctor for maybe obviously a hospital board or something of that nature. But when we come to these smaller centers, usually it's you're really hoping that people send in those applications. And the applications, I mean, if the clerk and council wish to develop something more specific for youth is a little bit more different. They might not have that work history or some sort of background to promote themselves better, but we can definitely work and move forward with that.
I definitely, I hear what Kayla's saying in terms of the magic number of 5. I think that a number of 8 feels really good to me in terms of 5 youth, an adult member at large, and then 2 counselors. That feels like a nice group, because then we're looking at 4 for quorum, you know, which could be, again, which I think seems like it would fit the nice balance and have a lot of good voices there. I just don't know if that would be too much and cause too many problems in terms of achieving quorum each week. But 4 doesn't seem like an unrealistic number.
Isn't it 5 for 8?
I think it just has to be 50%, but Kayla might correct me.
Oh,
It's 50% plus 1.
Oh,
yeah, so it'd be 5.
okay. Yeah. So any other thoughts on this these terms of reference, or thoughts on the number? That seems to be the point we're looking at right now.
Then, if you go to 5 youth, would you then look at splitting that up where you would have 2 in an age bracket from 14 to 16 and 3 from 16 to 8? And I'm looking at hopefully what we call that succession planning, where you might have somebody a little younger get on, and then as they develop and go through, that they enjoy and want to stay there. So then they move up into as they get older, up into that upper level, which is a 4-year term. I'm just throwing that out for some people to think about, or do we just go with, or is that refining it too fine? Like, are we getting too hard then to fulfill the applications by narrowing it down that way? Just something to throw out for people to think about.
Yeah, the thought crossed my mind as well, Robert. And I thought, my first thought was, oh, if there is a rep for each grade category or age category, that would be great. But then I thought to myself, same problems we sometimes have with student council here at the school. Sometimes we don't have the right people from certain grades coming forward, and we're left with a bit of a loss. But your idea about a bracket, you know, a couple from this group and a couple from this group, which gives that flexibility, seems pretty safe. But as you're speaking, another thing popped into my head. This is a 4-year term. And if we're talking about the youngest of these members being 14 years old, by the time their term's done, they'll very likely not be around. They'll be out at college or university potentially. So that's a piece too, in terms of the term length, that there's few students who might be able to truly fulfill a 4-year term for a committee like this. I don't know if there's any way around that to shorten that particular term.
No, you're right. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good point.
Yeah, maybe for youth, it's a shorter amount of time, because 1 year and when you're young is like 10 years when you're old.
Mm-hmm.
I remember also, like, and I know it was the beginning of the summer when you guys first started talking about this, but and Kayla and I think Ben was also agreeing, and I could be wrong, so sorry, but the youth were going to be offered their volunteer hours as well.
I think that was an idea we did pitch.
Yeah, I do remember that. I know I wasn't here all summer because I just couldn't get on the same dates, and so my face hasn't been around either much, but I do remember that. So yeah, that's fantastic too, to be able to offer that to the youth, because that's a hard thing to do nowadays, especially with COVID. It's a hard thing to do for them to get their hours to graduate. So
Kaylee, can you tell us if that is something, is the term length something that can be adjusted, or is that set in stone?
No, absolutely. The term length could be changed. If that's something that the committee now feels would be a good idea or suggestion, we can absolutely.
Robert?
Yeah, as you were talking, I was just thinking that too. And in the age group, we got an 18-year-old in there for the first year. They'll be gone the next year, possibly. So all of a sudden, they've only had 1 year, and you're going to be short you're going to be short members. So I think we need to increase the youth, but I think you could go to a 2-year term. Split the 4.5, go to a 2-year term, and then redo it in 2 years' time. It was still,
Yep.
The total would fit the term of council, which is 4 years, but it would be your adults. You might just direct that solely for the youth, leave the adults on for the full 4 and just have it for the youth because of their ages and moving forward in their life. They'll be out, you'll lose those members within a year or 2 years after they start in. So I think the adults could stay for the full term and the youth could be directed to be a 2-year term only.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Kayla the same thing. We could do that, Kayla, in terms of reference, where the adult members have a 4-year term and the youth members have a 2-year term. We could do that, correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Mhm. How do we feel about numbers for each of these groups? Now, in the original terms, it had 1 counselor. Barry, it almost sounded like that you feel like a committee of this nature needs 2.
Well, I mean, are we talking about the youth committee or just the governance committee of the youth committee? You know, I think we're talking on just one committee altogether rather than 2 separate committees. And we're doing one committee, right, which with 2 counselors and that. So that we in effect become the committee of council. So the youth become members of the committee of council. And if that's the way we're talking, then I think that's where council's regulations are you need to have 2. You need to have 2 reps from the council on the board. So that's why I said 7. I was happy with 7 when I said you had the 2 counselors, right? Mm-hmm. You've got the Shannon, sorry. You've got the coordinator. I was trying to think of your title. I was going to just say boss, the coordinator, right? You got the coordinator, and then so it's 7-4 that leaves you youth, but it's still nice to have somebody like Ben around who's another adult member. So it's almost like you need 3 adults, the 2 from council, another adult who's not from council. So that makes your 3, and then that still leaves your then that leaves your coordinator, which makes 4. So then you're up to, and then that leaves room for 3 members of the youth. And I would be reluctant to put age limits on it because you don't know what you're going to end up with. If you just say it has to be 3 youths, we know our goal is to get, some senior youth and maybe 1 younger youth. But I'd be reluctant to put an age limit on it because we can end up shooting ourselves in the foot and not be able to fill.
I have a suggestion.
Chris has got a question. I'm just going to ask one question first, Chris, before I let you go there. Yep. We've never had the coordinator as a member of the committee. So even when we had committee members who took the role of coordinator, they removed themselves from the committee. Is that because we can't?
Yeah, actually, good point. So so the coordinator does not necessarily become a member of the committee, right? Good. They just report to the committee, correct?
Okay. Krista?
Can we not just maybe try to model it where we have 1 senior, and then hopefully we've got, more of the couple grade 9s or 10s or 10s, 11s versus the 12s. Like if it's just the 3 students, then why not 1 required to be more of a senior mature student, and then the one behind them gets to follow in that position, and then there's got 2 years, and then the one behind them who might have 3 years gets to follow in that position, and it's kind of like more of a rotation of the seniors they just graduate into senior.
Idealistically, that is what we would try to achieve.
Okay, but just making sure I'm following and on the same page.
Idealistically, that's what we would try to achieve. But I'm just reluctant to say put them in you have to be, because we just may not get volunteers to do that. Our senior person might be a 15-year-old rather than a 17-year-old, right? So I'm reluctant, and then the following year we get, she turned 16 or he turned 16, and then we've got a more senior person, which gives us opportunity. I'm just reluctant to say there has to be a senior, from 16 to 18, and then I'm just reluctant to do that. because you don't know who's going to apply for the positions. And if we put that in and then we can't fulfill our terms of reference because we put an age limit on it,
Yeah.
kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. That's the idea, what we want to achieve. But
Yeah.
to put it in writing, I think would be.
I think it's going to be really easy if we offer volunteer hours too. I feel like that's going to help entice the kids and to their own benefit. They don't even know it. Like, if their interests are there, obviously, but yeah, they're just going to benefit so much from the opportunity that, but dangle the carrot. It's a positive thing. So yeah, I would do it if I was in high school. It would have been something I did. So here I am. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, cool. Okay.
Robert, did you have another point?
Yeah, I was just gonna say then why we should look at 4 youth, one adult over 19, and then 2 council reps. If that would give us a total of 7.
Yeah.
And I think then that would be your quorum of 4. And that covers then Barry's point of 2 council reps. You got an independent adult over 19. You got the 4 youth, but then you also have youth coordinator there as well. So to me, I think that number of 7 would be a better solution for this committee. I'm prepared to make a motion to that effect if people are happy with the numbers.
Can I just add one more thing in? And I don't know if this was discussed previous, and I apologize. CRCs, when working with the youth like that, do any of these committee members, coordinators, or volunteer parents have to have their CRC, criminal record check?
Absolutely. Yes, they do.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was going to be in the motion. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so I think that makes a lot of sense what Robert outlined. Before we kind of put our adjustments or motion in place, I just wanted to, oh, there it is. I was looking at the number of meetings, and I think they said at a minimum of 4 times per year, but can meet more often if necessary. I feel that seems appropriate with the nature of this group in terms of giving kind of a sense of what the thoughts and ideas coming forward. As 4 sounds like a good, healthy number to establish, and then more can build on them if necessary. Was everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then the last thing is, how can we put in Mary's suggestion? Because I think that's really important in terms of the process of you're getting the right people. It's not necessarily just the youth who put up their hand and said, take me. You really need the right students who want to be part of it and can demonstrate commitment. And how do we put that in? And that might more be for a question for Kayla.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, like who would be conducting these interviews?
Well, what happens is we would put out a call for application, and we would receive the applications.
Mhm.
Those applications then get sent to council. Council, during closed session, open up those applications, review them and the content, and discuss the best fit for the board or committee. And this happens for all boards and committees of council. So this one wouldn't be unique at all in that respect. And then it would be council's discretion as to who was appointed.
Mary, do you think that would satisfy what you're talking about?
I'm just suggesting that, maybe the question is, Kayla, do you have other youth committees that you do this process with? Has this happened before?
No, so this is unique in nature, as it's the first one that has youth actively involved.
So, and again, because it's youth, I think normally if you apply to be on a committee or on a board, you can attach your CV, and it has all the pertinent information that says, if you're going to be the sort of person that the committee or the board is looking for. In a case like this, the kids don't have that kind of opportunity. So I think that I would suggest either the application has to be fine-tuned with the questions that will provide the
More,
kind of, I'm
yeah,
sorry?
provide the information. Sorry, yeah, provide the information, yeah.
Information that you're looking for. And I don't know if the coordinator and manager of the youth center would have an opportunity to provide input on the applicants, because they will in all likelihood know them best, even if you're not going to do any kind of live interviews. And I suppose that doesn't make sense given it's, sorry, I'm thinking out loud, since it's a council kind of subcommittee, perhaps just input or review or notes from the people who know the kids would be helpful, because anybody can look good on paper. I'm just saying.
Mary, did you have a thought? Thanks, Mary.
Yeah, so I understand what Mary's saying. So as I tried to explain before, so when committees come up, or applications for committees, they always lean on the two council members who sit on that committee for their guidance. So for example, the youth committee, then they're coming to Bob and I and say, okay, who do you, there's, we got a place for 4, there's 5 people, who do you recommend? And we'll tell them why we recommend them. So I still think it's a good idea that we get to meet the kids and interview. I would certainly want to, before I'm recommending them to sit on, the council to sit on a committee of council, which is quite an accomplishment for somebody who's 15, 16, 17 to sit on a committee of council. It's quite, quite a feather in their hat if they're able to achieve that. So I think between the coordinator and us members of the of the committee, as adult members of the committee would have to review each application before we would put our support behind one of them or 2 of them, whatever it happens to be.
Can we not, sorry, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, can we not request with the application a letter of reference?
Absolutely. If you recall, I know you all filled out an application at one time. It's not a complicated application.
No.
And it does
In
ask
fact,
for
I have it
references.
here.
And
I
it does
have it
ask for
here.
references. And then it asks you, why do you think, and why, remember one of the questions, why do you feel you would be a good fit for the, for the thing? So.
And there isn't a reference section, if I recall correctly. Like, I don't remember ever putting anything into, when I filled this application out, I don't remember putting anything in terms of a referral letter. And I think that would be essential if you could, if it was for a youth position, to say, for them to be able to talk to an employer or a teacher, to be able to talk on their behalf as to why they would be a good fit for this.
Or their pastor,
Yeah, exactly.
whatever.
Yeah. I think that would be perfect.
Okay.
So just for context, to show that it's really not a very cumbersome application here. I mean, you could just pick whatever board or committee, and it's just name and address, telephone number, and if you're currently serving, what they are, and just tell us about yourself, describe any work or volunteer experience as it would relate to that board or committee, and then any other qualifications that they might have. At the end, it asks if they want to submit any additional information. And that's the same for every current board and committee that we have now.
So Kayla, could you not just add a text bubble in there that says, please provide one reference, and then give examples of what a reference is, kind of like a passport application that just.
I think it's always something that could be added to the advertisement as well.
Okay. Yeah.
When applying, please have a community member reference letter.
I think it shows the dedication.
Again, it would be to the.
It'll definitely show the dedication of the candidate, that if they can take that one extra step by asking a member of the community or whatever, an employer, to write them a reference letter, which as an employer, I know I write them often and it takes me 5 minutes, that it just shows their dedication, that they want to be a part of this.
I agree. And I think that it's critical for this, because who are the kids that we want? Whose voices do we want? The typical kid who looks great on paper and who has the transcript, who's going to be putting their name forward, their voices are valid, but I want that kid who is marginalized, who has not felt like their voice has been heard, who doesn't have a place where they fit in to be able to express that. And how do you, and that's a tough one to get on paper sometimes. So that's where the letter would come in really handy for a teacher or a pastor or an employer to say, you know what, this kid may not be the one signing up for student council, but man, they've really got a good, clear voice, and they really represent an important demographic.
Awesome.
Yeah, so if that's possible, I'd love that to be in the advertisement to say, let's get a letter in there just saying why this person's the right fit. Yeah. Okay, so I think we've got some, I think we've got some awesome ideas here. So to sum up, and Kayla, I know you're taking notes, but we're looking at a 7-member committee with 2 council members, 1 adult over the age of 19, and 4 student or youth reps. And the youth reps to have a 2-year term each, and the adult members a 4-year term. And I think the only other provision we put in there that we're requesting a letter of reference to be included when we advertise the positions. Does that sum it up?
And when I said CRC, I'm not sure if that's something that's automatic. I guess the counselor.
That's mandatory. That's mandatory.
It is mandatory. Okay, thank you. Yeah. I don't remember, like I again, 4 years ago almost. So I'm sure, I mean, obviously I had to do it. So, but I just didn't know. Thank you. Okay. If it's mandatory, then that doesn't have to be included. Cool.
Okay. So knowing that Kayla's got that, those revisions, I think, Robert, I think you made this motion officially putting it forward. And yeah, and if we have a seconder for it, Deputy Mayor Burton, of putting this forward to the council, all in favor? Yeah. Great. Sounds like we're in agreement. This is great. Good stuff. Okay.
Can I ask one other question? Kayla, is it okay to be in that one motion? Is everything suitable in one, or did you want it split up?
No, that's fine. So what I actually did, Councillor Walker, was in the paragraph above, I outlined what the committee would like to see, including the 7 members appointed to the committee, 2 councillors, 1 adult 19 plus community member, and 4 students, 1 senior, 1 sophomore, 1 junior, and an additional. And then right in the motion, if you'd like to hear it, moved by Councillor Robert Walker, seconded by Deputy Mayor Barry Burton. Be it resolved that the Clearview Youth Advisory Committee hereby approve the terms of reference as amended to increase membership from 5 to 7 as described, reduce the length of term for youth to 2 years, include volunteer hours as an incentive, and request a letter of reference from each applicant.
That's awesome. How did you get all that?
Now,
She's
then,
very good at the job.
I'd like to make one other comment then. I would like to see in there somewhere that when we select the youth, that the youth coordinator be involved in the youth selection only. Because they know the youth, they've maybe dealt with them, they've worked with them, they've had their involvement with them in the center. As council, we have not seen that been involved in that opportunity. So I think for the youth, we need to have the youth coordinator involved in that selection process for the 4 youth.
I agree with you, Robert, but I don't think we need to have that in the motion. I think that's just an internal procedure that we do. I don't think. Okay. I agree 100%. I just don't think we need to have it in the motion.
So then, and the youth coordinator couldn't be a letter of reference for any of these youths then, right? Because that would be a conflict of interest.
No, I think
okay.
Because maybe for some youth, she may be the only one who
can
give her a letter of reference.
No, so. Okay, that's fine, and Barry. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that because that involvement, I think, needs to happen for the youth selection.
I mean, let's face it, Robert. You and I are going to be reviewing these first, and the first thing we're going to be doing is knocking on Shannon's door and go, tell us about these 3 kids. Just, it's like.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks everyone for that. Is there any other new business that we want to bring up at this time?
I'm just going to say I already sent Kayla the email in regards to what I was talking about earlier. I awesome. Composed it and found it all and copy and pasted, and Kayla's already got all the information. So
thanks, Krista. And Kayla can relay that to Shannon when she's putting together that program for the upcoming month. That's super. Very good. So, oh, Shannon?
Just a quick idea I would like to run by you all just to see if it's appropriate kind of regarding this youth council would be the idea of kind of having a mini group within the youth center, kind of like a round table to try to get youth out and involved and kind of set this idea up within them, kind of a way to advertise this position, have them come in like maybe once or twice a month, sit down at a table with like coffee or drinks, snacks, kind of talk about new ideas, new initiatives, but have it very like informal and maybe speak about these positions and what it can do, and kind of have a youth from this roundtable or the youth go forward into these or applying to these council positions, if that makes sense, or if that would be appropriate.
That could also include, it'd be interesting what they're going to become a committee of the council. It'd also be good to have them come attend a council meeting. And so they have an understanding of how a council works and how a committee works and stuff like that. So those who are interested in the position, like, I love your idea of a round table and say, here's what we're trying to do, get involved, and those are interested. We wouldn't make them sit through an entire 6.5 hour meeting, would we, Robert?
Why not? They need to get a feel for it. Like we
I'm
do.
like, that's showing their initiative and their dedication. Yeah, like if they want to sit for those 6.5 hours, make them. Let them.
Trust me, we have a hard time sitting in there for 6.5 hours. So it's like, even when you're sitting in the comfort of your own home. But if they came to, the early part of a meeting and saw, how a meeting's run and stuff like that, and they could hear how everybody gets to put in different input and stuff like that, I just think it'd be a good experience for them.
Yeah.
All right. I think that those are excellent ideas, Shannon. And I think that's a great way. And connecting these students with council specifically, like what is an area I think we as a system in education also have to focus on is increasing that civic mindedness of our students coming through, having them aware of what's happening in the background. It's like the only part where students learn about this is a half credit course in grade 10 where they get this is under municipal, this is under federal, this is under provincial. And so to say to students, it's time to engage and be part of the world around you. And this is the age for it, right? It's more than ever. Things are accessible and able for students to jump in. So I love those ideas.
And that it takes an entire committee from at multiple different levels to run a community, to run a township.
That's right.
And they don't get to see that. They don't get to see this, that what adults do. So yeah, I think that's fantastic.
And it fosters that sense of they have power to make change. They're not at the mercy of what happens around them by some faceless body. It is, we're a democracy, and we have a great one here in the different levels, and for them to be involved in it and to say, hey, this is how I can get a stop sign on my street. Those kind of things are really powerful tools, right? So,
Cool.
All right, good. So, unless there's other new business, maybe we could take a look at next meeting. We've been going every couple of months, so I think that would put us into a February meeting. Our first Wednesday, if I'm right, first Wednesday is, I think for me, it actually represents the first day of the second semester. But I could probably swing that if that works for everyone else, or we could put it off till March and the first Wednesday there. Any thoughts? Krista?
If Shannon has the go-ahead to start with this information, would it be good that we meet in February to find out the feelers from her, if the youths are biting, if they're interested, and the progression of how things are going on her perspective, I guess.
February could be good also, yeah, for that reason, to hear how things went kind of over the holiday, which is always kind of an interesting time.
And if there's no interest, then how do we brainstorm as adults to get the interest?
Right.
So it's either February 2nd or March 2nd? Is that what you're asking, Ben?
That's what I'm asking, yeah, what works best for the group here, since I think we're all here.
Either works.
I think February is probably not a bad idea. We're going to go December, January. We're going to go 2 months within the meeting. So February kind of makes sense to me.
All right, well, then let's establish our next meeting, same time, February 2nd at 3:30. And we'll, I assume, be virtual, and we'll go from there. I don't think we need a a motion for that, but we just need a motion then for the adjournment. So be it resolved that the Clearview Youth Center Advisory Committee adjourn at 4:30 p.m. Do we have a mover? Okay, Krista, a seconder. Mary, all in favor? Yay. Thanks, everyone. This was awesome. It was great to meet Shannon, and I think we got a lot of ground cover here, and it was good seeing everybody together.
Nice to
Yeah,
see
great.
everybody.
It's great to see everybody together. My apologies for, I don't want people to think I wasn't interested in what was going on. I was just so tied up in all these other meetings that as a deputy
Wow.
mayor, I get tied up in. But I
That's
knew everything was in good hands. So with our chair and our staff who are doing a great job.
Awesome.
Keep it up.
Shannon,
And it's great. And it's always